this is what I call perfect lazy sailing. Not too much swell, there's enough wind, visibility is good, sea state is, well, I mean look, it's beautiful. Bit of a delayed start this morning, a few loose connections. The exhaust goes into the muffler box and there was a couple of loose connections there and they've been leaking a bit of water. I've just changed some hose clamps on another couple of fittings, so hopefully things are okay at the moment as we speak. We are expecting a whole load of wind to come from the west. That coincides with us trying to get round the corner to the Todjian Islands, which we'll talk more about another time. If it's not going to be windy, then these are pretty much the best conditions we can ask for, really. There's lots of fishing boats out and lots of these huge, great big green floating buoys, which presumably are fishing pots, who knows. The chart plotter in the cockpit is playing up. We're able to see our boat speed, our depth, all the other NEMA data that is important to navigating. However, it's not picking up the actual chart information. As a consequence to that, I can't see certain waypoints. If I plot a waypoint on here, it doesn't appear. This is having a knock-on effect with the autopilot. I can't engage autopilot into navigation mode. The cursor button won't move the cursor to the right until it's been on for a couple of hours, so presumably has heated up. I'm kind of hoping that this is an issue with just dampness that goes away when it dries out. And I say this because this happened yesterday, but within half an hour of having it turned on, it picked up the chart data. But this morning, it's been on for 2 hours and I still can't see anything. So we might have to look at getting this replaced, I think.
So we've got about 8 miles to go and tiny bit of wind picked up, between 8 and 10 knots. It is quite a long way forward, so the angle is quite narrow, but we've put the foresail up. So it means we'll get there in under 3 hours. And as the time is only 11:30, it means we could theoretically sail all the way now to our anchorage. As usual, it is a joy not to have the engine on. It's one of the highs of sailing, is turning the engine off. The moment you turn it off and you just hear the sound of the water and the wind. Lovely.
Well, this is what I call perfect lazy sailing. Perfect sailing because, well, not too much swell. There's enough wind that we're going just under 5 knots. Visibility is good. Sea state is, well, I mean, look, it's beautiful. It's lazy because I haven't bothered to get the mainsail out. And you've probably noticed that quite a lot in the rare clips when we're actually sailing, is that quite often we don't get the main out. Well, of course, that's because we're a ketch. So we get the mizzen out and it gets us enough speed that we're comfortable. Obviously, if we got the main out, we could go a little bit faster, but gone are those days of trying to get the absolute maximum speed out of Esper. When we first bought the boat, before we laid her up with all of our crap, I was getting double figures out of her quite easily hitting 10 knots. We don't do those kind of speeds anymore, and even if we could, we try not to attain them because it puts a lot of strain on the boat. So I'm quite happy just jib and jigger in. And a very comfortable sail. Well, it's been marvellous, this little sail, hasn't it, Elizabeth?
Yeah.
And in fact, it looks like we're going to be able to sail right into the little village. At some point we lose the swell, so I'm keen to just keep sailing until we're out of the swell. And I've been doing a comfortable 3.5–4 knots and actually been hand steering for the last hour, which I've been really enjoying. Weather's possibly building up out there, we're not sure, but I think the key thing is to get out of this southerly swell, which I think has probably picked up from the wind that we've been getting this lunchtime. That was a nice welcome, wasn't it? That fishing boat that went past, how nice of them. There was about 15 of them on board, all screaming and shouting. 40. We're actually in about 12 metres of water, and there's still a tiny bit of swell coming around, but it's nothing like it was out there. It could make for a little bit of a rolly anchorage, but I think the holding here is going to be good. It's sand, provided we don't get anything horrendous coming from the northeast, then we should be good. I think we might get quite a few people passing by waving at us this evening. So this is the town of Jiko, or Jiko, J-I-K-O. It looks like a fun place. It's the kind of place I think that if we were to hang around here for a bit, we'd have great fun exploring, going to chat with the locals. But unfortunately, this trip, at least for the next few days, is literally about trying to get to the Togian Islands. So we really don't have time to stop. Plus, we've got the whole weather thing to think about as well. But it does look like a lot of fun. I mean, they've even got floating platforms out here, not for fishing, but what looks like for leisure. I might have that wrong. That could be a fish farm, but there's a lot of noise there. Dogs barking, I can hear hymns, people singing. There's a huge church just over my shoulder there. We thought it was a mosque from distance, but when we looked at the map, there are probably more churches than people in this town. You can't see me, but I'm here. This is why we chose this anchorage, because I knew there were going to be some westerlies coming through. Didn't know how strong and how windy and rainy it was going to be, but I'm hoping that we are protected here. Just staying up though, because we are spinning around quite a bit.
Next morning, we wake to a tranquil setting in Jiko. The winds and rain have passed, but the southerly swell remains, a swell that seems constant in the Molucca Sea. The coast here offers little protection from the south, so if this continues, it's going to make the next few anchorages uncomfortable, possibly untenable. And in what's turning out to be the norm, the officially recorded depths bear no relation at all to what we're seeing. So here we go again, using satellite imagery to back up what's actually in front of us, rather than the utterly inaccurate charts. I mean, this isn't even close to the charted depths. The satellite images often show potential anchorages that, when cross-referenced with the charts, are actually 100 metres or deeper, with absolutely nowhere to drop the hook. And there's another problem. As we rounded the corner of the peninsula, we lost internet connection. Our last weather forecast showed some fierce westerlies approaching, so, with the swell building, we curtailed our 30 nautical mile trip and ducked into an uncharted anchorage next to a village called Posilagon.
We only did 16 miles today. As we came around the corner, as I suspected, we had a little bit of current against us and the beginning of this westerly wind, which has been predicted now for the last couple of days. So we just tucked into our first bay. It wasn't the main one we were after. The next one up was another 15 miles away, but at 3.5 knots, it was going to take a while to get there. So we've come to this place, which has no internet connection, is not marked on the charts, but once again, as usual, lies about the depths here. Claims that it's 10 metres well out there, 100 metres, got down to 30, and then just on the edge here there's a shallow sandy reef which shallows away quickly to the shore. So we're going to spend a couple of days here. It'd be nice to visit a shore as well, so we could do that tomorrow if we're going to spend an extra day here. This is Saddam Hussein.
In here, Posilagon.
Yeah, and we're in Posilagon. So we've just rowed ashore, literally. You can just see from the dinghy just there, and Esper just out there. We've just rowed ashore because it's not that far. And of course, usual greeting. Saddam very kindly has taken our line, has taken our rubbish. And of course, we're greeted by lots of smiley faces.
Hello.
So we're just going to go and have a quick look ashore. Now look, the weather's not good at the moment. It's raining, it's cloudy. So I can only apologise for that, and the lighting is not great, but that doesn't stop people from smiling, does it? Just been chatting with Saddam and his friends, just trying to work out if we can get some fuel here. And when I told him we're aiming for the Tojin Islands, he's like, oh, too far. And it is, about 150 miles from here. So there's the men on one side, and all the ladies are under the cover. Hello.
Hello.
This is this name Bobo. This name Bobo. For roof. And the people in here.
Yeah. So this is individual leaves that are then woven on
Yeah.
to a cane, a piece of wood. Okay.
And
And then that's the old roof.
how many years do you change?
Very long.
Long time.
Very long time.
Ah, great, isn't it?
My uncle.
It's your uncle.
Yeah, that's my uncle. Or
So it's a different kind of roof.
Oh, I see.
It's still a roof.
Okay, it's the roof again. Another kind of roof, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
In both.
Well, as we walk up the village with Saddam, who's introducing us to his uncle we've met, the various cats, dogs, puppies, chicks and cockerels, I've been trying my best Indonesian by saying Apakah kita kapal layar pertama yang akan dikunjungi, which is basically asking, are we the first sailboat to visit his village? And Saddam,
Yes. First.
there we go. If you're coming around this way, it's a great spot to anchor. It's really well protected, and lots of friendly locals, of course, as we come to expect. So we are actually trying to find internet. This is the only place in Indonesia that doesn't have internet by phone, but there is a Wi-Fi network here, so we're going to see if we can try and connect to it to just get a weather update. And it's this tower here. Now, I've been able to connect to it, but I can't really get any connection after that, so I think we might struggle here. So Liz, why have you stopped?
Just trying to see if we can get connection with this very old. I'm trying to get windy, basically. I'm trying to get weather, but we're going to struggle, I think.
In here, try again and try again.
Yeah. So Saddam, you said don't move the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kalau digoyang tidak bisa dapat.
Which basically means don't move your phone, just stand still.
Stand.
Don't move. The two ladies behind me are the guardians of the hotspot. So they're in charge. The boss of the hotspot. The hotspot is coming from the tower just here, just there. There's actually a camp, a tent underneath the base of the tower with a whole bunch of kids all crouched around their phones trying to get connection. And we're just explaining to Saddam that everywhere we've been in Indonesia, we've had internet, literally everywhere. And then Posilagon, nothing. So it's pointless giving them our YouTube channel because they're never going to be able to watch this. So Saddam is taking us to his home because I did ask, can we get a coffee? And he said, yes, I have coffee in my home. Now Saddam, as you can probably tell by his name, is Muslim. Obviously in this part of Sulawesi it is predominantly Christian, but you still get Muslims as well. So there is one mosque here, which is just over in the corner there by the coconut plantation. But perhaps in the background you can hear the ubiquitous sound of a chainsaw. We've said before, that chainsaws in Indonesia go together hand in hand, and I said to Liz I wouldn't feel comfortable if I came into an anchorage and didn't hear the sound of a chainsaw in the background. Plenty of trees to be cutting down around here. So we're now in the coconut plantation. We are surrounded by coconuts, and of course every little house we walk past has its own vegetable plantation as well.
So here, when you want to build a house, first thing you do is you make your own bricks out here on the road, and then you build your house.
It's a very slippery path to Saddam's house. We're weaving our way in and out all these little sort of shallow trenches of water, conduits of water. And we've been greeted by a number of cats, which is always very nice.
We're in Saddam's home. He's invited us for coffee.
Just coffee.
It's lovely. It's very, very kind of you. We're enjoying some coffee. There are 80 cats here because his son loves
Love
cats.
cats.
And this is your wife, whose name is...
Ami.
Yes, Amy. Amy made the coffee for us. And you haven't introduced, but I presume this is Mum. No, your neighbour.
Oh.
Neighbour.
Neighbor.
This is your neighbour.
Yes.
Come to join us.
My mom's working in garden.
Oh, she's working.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And she lives in this house.
Yes.
She lives in this house.
Yes.
here.
This house.
How's the coffee?
It's great. It's from Sulawesi, so it's always good.
Yeah.
Coffee from Sulawesi
Yeah.
in Posilagon
Very
village.
good. Yes.
Yes.
Is it? It's from the Posilagon is the name of the village.
Yeah.
Okay, terima kasih.
Sama-sama.
Thank you for the copy.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, that was a very nice cup of coffee, and I greedily asked for satu lagi, one more, because it was so good. And we've just left now. We're walking back to the boat now. The weather's clearing up a bit. It's still very overcast, and I apologise for that because it doesn't make for very good cinematography. But the atmosphere here, irrespective of the weather, is very relaxed and friendly, as we would expect. And Liz has found somewhere to buy some tomatoes, which is always a bonus. Hello.
Hello.
Opposite the church we have the school, and considering the size of Posilagon village, this is actually quite a big school. One thing you'll note about this village, and probably the same in a lot of these villages and towns, is the architecture. I love the architecture. I love architecture generally. I'm no expert, but pretty much every single house here that you see is unique. They are built in very different styles. Many are stilted, a lot of them aren't. They're mainly bungalows. You get the odd two-storey, but mainly bungalows. But some with porches, some made of wood, some made of stone. Real mix of different types of houses here. I mean, look at this one. This is very modern looking and rather splendid. What is it, Liz?
This is the home of Saddam's best friend, and it's also Saddam's
best
favourite
friend.
house.
Yes, Saddam's favourite house, and it is rather splendid, isn't it?
For connection internet.
What are you doing here, Liz?
I'm doing what everybody here is doing, is trying to get some internet connection. Look at those.
We've just managed to get a tiny bit of internet, enough to get a grip file. And it's Saturday lunchtime, and everyone is now out. You can see they're all sitting around. Those are the boys sitting under in their hut. There's one little kid on his own. He's obviously not friends with the boys under the hut. Group of girls there, and there's some lads sitting under the tree. And they're all basically surrounding this tower here in order to get their limited internet connection. But I've just got enough to get a grip file. Good.
The taxi. Okay? The taxi.
This is taxi.
The taxi.
Taxi.
Thank you.
Hello.
Cuma ada dua atas.
Well, as we return back to the shore where our boat is anchored, happy to announce that the sun is coming out and we can even see blue sky, which is great because we have been a bit concerned about the weather. Just managed to get that grid file, as I said earlier, and yeah, I think I need to sit down and analyse to see how feasible it is to get over to the Todjian Islands, which are 150 miles away, is the closest point at which we can land. But in the meantime, Saddam has very kindly said that he would use the scooter so that we can go and get some diesel. So Liz and I are now going to head back to the boat to get some diesel, come ashore and do a diesel run.